All right, welcome to Intertek's Assurance in Action series. Today's discussion is on healthy buildings, exploring the crucial intersection of design, construction, and environmentally responsible buildings. Today's discussion centers on LEED, and our subject matter expert is Alan Scott, Director of Sustainability for Intertek's Building and Construction Division. Alan, thanks so much for joining us today. Can you share with the audience your background and your current role with Intertek?
Yes, Shawn, it's wonderful to be with you here today. My background is as a licensed architect, worked early on in traditional design practice, but for the last 25 years, I've worked as a sustainable building consultant, helping building owners to create healthy, sustainable, and resilient built environment projects. With Intertek, I am part of our building and construction team, guiding both our internal experts and our clients towards those sustainable building results for their projects.
So Alan, today's discussion's on LEED. LEED has been around for a while, but not everyone has experience with it. To get us all on the same page here, can you talk a little bit about what LEED is?
Absolutely. LEED is one of the earliest and most comprehensive green building rating systems globally. It is administered by the U.S. Green Building Council, which is an international organization based in the U.S. I said comprehensive because the rating system covers everything from the choice of sites, like access of a building site, to transportation networks for walking and biking and taking public transportation, and support for electric vehicle charging, to site considerations relative to managing stormwater and protecting or restoring habitat and green spaces on the site. Also covering water efficiency and energy efficiency and optimization and carbon emission reduction. Material impacts of buildings, things like embodied carbon and healthy materials, as well as looking at indoor environmental quality, the full range of things from air quality, visual and acoustic and thermal comfort in buildings. So it covers a full range of things. People often ask, what's the difference between LEED and the well building rating system? And that's a good place to make that contrast. LEED is very broad and covers all those areas I just talked about. Well is like taking the environmental quality section of LEED and blowing it up to make it broader and deeper on that narrow subject of the occupant health and wellness, as opposed to covering all of those other sustainable building attributes. One last key thing to share is that LEED is made up of a series of prerequisites and credits, and so projects seeking LEED certification will have to achieve all the prerequisites and enough of the credits to earn the points towards their level of certification.
So along those lines, what types of projects is LEED applicable to?
Pretty much everything you can imagine. It covers everything from single-family homes up to high-rise, skyscrapers, and everything in between, including multifamily condominiums and apartment buildings and everything else. LEED includes some adaptations for specific project types, like speculative core and shell projects that developers might create, tenant improvements that might be only a portion of a building that's seeking certification, special adaptations for unique projects like schools and hospitals, and a completely standalone rating system for the sustainable operation and maintenance of existing buildings. So it covers the full range.
So what are the benefits of LEED? When we talk about LEED, where does this really pay off for folks?
I think about it in three ways. The first one is it is a comprehensive guide for planning the sustainable measures that are going to go into a project. So it clearly articulates a checklist of things to consider in creating a sustainable building project. The second value is in communicating those requirements for sustainability to all of the project stakeholders, be that the project design and construction team or the constituents who will be served by the project. And the third value is at the end of the project, it serves as a validation to ensure that the sustainable building goals for the project have been achieved and they're validated by a third-party review of the process.
And I'm assuming building owners, when they make the investment into LEED, they're pretty proud of it, because I've walked in the buildings, I've seen LEED plaques, platinum, gold, LEED. So again, beyond some of the other benefits, they want to make sure folks know that their buildings have met or have followed some of the LEED requirements.
Yes, I think in commercial real estate, for example, as well as multifamily residential, it's a way for the developer to show to prospective tenants, and then for the tenants to show to their employees that they're moving into a more healthier and more sustainable building.
So is LEED tied to any regulations?
Indirectly, yes. LEED is a voluntary standard, but certain federal agencies, government agencies, and then some state and municipal governments have adopted LEED as a requirement for the projects that they fund. So publicly funded projects in those government jurisdictions, in some cases, require LEED certification as part of the construction of those public projects. In some municipalities, LEED is tied to incentives. So there might be things like a floor area ratio or building height increase in the zoning code if a building achieves LEED certification. So there's sometimes an incentive, not a regulatory requirement, but a carrot as opposed to a stick for LEED. And then the last example I'll share is that in some cases, states have adopted aspects based on LEED. Like the state of California has their Cal Green Code, which is based on LEED and the ASHRAE 189 standard. And this is a requirement for all projects developed in the state, and many of the requirements in Cal Green come almost directly out of the LEED rating system. So complying with code in California can get you a long way towards achieving LEED certification on a voluntary basis.
So Alan, how does the LEED certification work? Just kind of the principles of it.
Yeah, so there's a component that the project team handles autonomously, and there's a part of it that is interface with the Green Building or Green Business Certification Institute, which is a offshoot of the U.S. Green Building Council. So to start with, an owner who is intent on achieving LEED certification for their project will then register the project with the U.S. Green Building Council to show that intent to do that, and that invites their access to a platform called LEED Online. From there, it's the project team's responsibility to move this forward. So they set about identifying which of the credits in LEED they're going to pursue and what strategies they need to integrate into the design in order to meet the prerequisites and credits within the rating system. So that moves through, and those requirements are also built into the project design and specifications, so that the contractor is going to be engaged in, when they take over in construction, building the project to those LEED standards. All along that way, project team members are then documenting their compliance with LEED requirements and compiling those in LEED Online. So at the end of the project, the project team submits their project to the GBCI for review. That review happens by an independent third-party team. They come back with comments, allow the project team to respond and provide supplemental documentation, goes back for a final review, then comes back and they achieve their certification and celebrate.
Quite a process. So who all is involved in helping these projects become or achieve LEED certification?
Yeah, so it is a large span of involvement. The project design team, the architect, interior designer, landscape architect, civil engineer, and mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers are all involved in designing to LEED standards. And then the contractor, the subcontractors in some cases, and product manufacturers are also involved on the construction side of things. A LEED project also might include some specialties like a building system commissioning agent, a building enclosure commissioning agent, an energy modeler, and maybe a LEED consultant as well.
Okay, so this leads me to the obvious question is, where does Intertek get involved with this? Again, there's so many different, seems like so many different balls in the air. What does Intertek, how do they support LEED certification?
There's a few main ways that Intertek is supporting LEED projects. One of it is with some specialty services we have. Our acoustics team helps with designing to LEED acoustical design standards and doing some of the testing and validation required at the end of that. Our environmental team performs indoor air quality assessments that are part of a specific credit in LEED. And we have a building enclosure commissioning team that contributes to the commissioning requirements in the energy section of LEED. So those are three of the main ways that Intertek supports projects. We also are able to support broader with LEED consulting for projects and performing energy modeling to support a LEED project.
So Alan, I know version 5 is coming up. Is it this year, next year for version 5?
Yeah, it's going to expect to be released early next year.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what to expect with that newest version?
Yeah, I'm really excited about LEED version 5 coming out. I'm currently serving as vice chair of the U.S. Green Building Council's Resilience Working Group, and also as a member of the Environmental Quality Technical Advisory Group that are both committees informing the development of LEED version 5. We just gotten through the first public comment period on the rating system, and so the further development is going to be happening throughout the rest of 2024. And there's some exciting new things coming in this version. One of them is that the LEED will include a prerequisite requiring a resilience assessment for every project. So they have to identify what are the hazard risks associated with building projects to inform the design process of what resilience strategies might be integrated in. And then some resilience requirements sprinkled throughout the rating system focused on more robust protection from floods if that was an issue, or things like wildfire smoke mitigation, thermal resilience in the case of power outages. So beyond resilience, the other things that we can anticipate in LEED version 5 is raising the bar on energy performance and putting in greater emphasis on carbon emission reduction. And this is going to include more robust measures for high-performance building enclosures. There is also going to be a greater emphasis on embodied carbon and reduction of the life cycle impacts of building materials. So that's going to work its way back upstream to product manufacturers who are looking at reducing the impacts of the materials they're producing so that they contribute more to the embodied carbon reduction in buildings. And finally, continuing an emphasis on indoor environmental quality, including both indoor air quality testing, as well as looking at ongoing indoor air quality monitoring in buildings.
Well, I know with LEED version 4, how long has version 4 been out now? It probably
Well, it's been almost 9 or 10 years. So
right. So it's not like these changes come often, right? So when they do, you can expect to have some pretty substantial additions, it sounds like, to this new version.
Yes, exactly. It will be nice that the U.S. Green Building Council is committing now to a 5-year cycle on updates, so we can expect version 6 in 2030 and version 7 in 2035, right, and so on.
So on, right? Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, Alan, I really appreciate your time. This has really been great information. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience?
I think we covered a lot. So I think maybe I'll just summarize by saying that, LEED is an internationally recognized comprehensive standard to make buildings better for the environment, for the people in the buildings, and for the owner's bottom line. So we're here to help building owners and developers to assess the potential for LEED on their project and look at where it might add value in that process.
Great. Alan, thanks again. Really appreciate your time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.